Hello guys, welcome to the show. Yes, show. I'm going to try a new format today. My thinking one day was I want a more topical like format where I'm going to cover about 10 different segments, all of which would be totally boring and not worthy of a video, but when amalgamated together I'm hoping it will make an interesting tapestry of content that you guys will enjoy. So I hope you guys are all good. Let's kick off this show with the news. What's the most exciting Final Fantasy news? And this will change day to day. Obviously we're in a dry era right now, so biggest Final Fantasy news right now, not very big. All I could find was Final Fantasy XIV's most controversial third-party plugin used for in-game stalking has been shut down. All the data for this app has been permanently and irreversibly deleted. Basically it was called Player Scope, and it allowed for anyone to search another person's Final Fantasy XIV character name and receive their player account details, including information of all characters on that account. That information was also uploaded to a central server combining all the data, and that essentially allowed people to get into that and harass, stalk, and generally act creepy. The dev of this app came out and said, yep, this was no bueno, no good. So he's axed it as well, and it just goes hand in hand with what Yoshida has long said. The reason he doesn't want third-party apps used in Final Fantasy XIV. One of them I really agree with, because I'm an old WoW veteran, and third-party like DPS meters would cause a lot of toxicity amongst the community, and 14 has also had issues with like cheating through third-party apps. Yoshida specifically called out one that allowed players to cheat during the Ultimate Raid challenges. Other piece of succulent news, and quite frankly guys, this is just why I want to go out and buy loads of magic, like rare magic cards, because somebody has got one of the 70, I think there's only 70 golden chocobo cards, big beautiful full body traveling chocobo. And yeah, when we heard about these coming out, a lot of people were guesstimating maybe about $15,000 to $20,000 for one card. Someone's selling it for 50,000. 50,000? There's not many things I wouldn't do for 50k. I would degrade and demean myself. I'd do OnlyFans. I'd do weird freak shit. I'd pour milk over myself. And you just about name it. This is why I don't judge this new wave of OnlyFans generation. People coming in like the young 20s, doing it, making like a cool 2 mil and then retiring. If I didn't look like a troll man, I'd have done it. Gotta respect the hustle. People say there's no price on your dignity and self-respect. Try me. I feel like that's just what us ugly people say. What I know for an absolute fact is I would poo my pants if I pulled one of these cards. I actually just had my birthday and a friend bought me some Magic, the Gathering booster cards for Final Fantasy, and I opened a full body Fabled Sephiroth. Fabled Sephiroth usually has this like a pose in it. This was like an old Nomura style art, and opened it. This was only like £12 worth of booster cards. Looked it up, 250 quid. 250 quid, and I was hooping and hollering. Like the excitement I got from that, as well as pulling a full card Cloud worth 70. So I basically got like 300 quid on 3 booster pulls, and the excitement of that, I think I'd probably have a heart attack if I pulled a golden chocobo. There we go, Final Fantasy news. Now let's cover broader gaming news. What's happening in the wider world? Well, by the time I upload this, these stories might be a little bit old, but the National Museum is holding a Video Game World Expo. It will be highlighting the history and cultural impact of video games and just how much video games are starting to weave into our society. There was also a story that a British game developer, what was his name? Alex Butcher, the co-founder of Game Dev Heroes, he just got an MBE. Now, for those of you who aren't British, an MBE is, it's like essentially being knighted. It's like one of the highest honours in the land. It stands for Most Excellent of the British Empire. Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. You've also got like DBEs, I think, which are for like dukes and dames. You've also got ones for military commanders, and I think there's like 2 others, but basically you get this. You're like an MVP of the nation, and I think this is the first time someone in the video game industry has gotten an MBE. So that's pretty damn significant, I think. The studio behind the upcoming game Lost Records has just cut a crap loads of jobs, impacting a considerable portion of its workforce, and Epic Games has successfully taken legal action against a cheap provider for Fortnite, securing $175,000 in settlements, which, you know, for a company like Epic Games, is obviously a drop in the water. Just as I'm editing this, the irony that it's just dropped that a class action lawsuit from Fortnite players against Epic Games for cheating has just hit to the big fat juicy tune of 245 million. Yeah, the class action lawsuit launched by loads of players who were given unwanted in-game purchases. Fortnite class action settlement benefits Fortnite players who were charged in-game currency for unwanted items between 2017 and 2022, whose children made unauthorized charges to their credit cards or whose accounts were locked after they complained to their credit card company about wrongful charges. This is the second round of payouts in the Epic Games Fortnite class action lawsuit. The previous payment totaled 72 million. Now it's ramped up to 245 million. What is this? And on top of the 245 that's going in refunds to players, 275 million is also going in civil penalties, meaning that Epic Games for cheating is $520 million, $500 million in the hole. Holy nipples. Oh, yeah, that 175k doesn't even scratch the edges, really, does it? Just on that topic, I don't understand it. Like, how does somebody, because I can kind of understand it if it's in, say, a tournament where there's a physical or a monetary reward. I get the incentive for cheating there. You want the dollar bill. It's the people who cheat and get like aim bots or League of Legends or Overwatch just to rank climb. And I don't understand it. Can somebody please explain what is the satisfaction that someone could possibly derive from like deploying a cheat just so that your ranking goes higher, because you know you haven't accomplished anything. Like there's a sense of accomplishment I get from climbing in ranked. Like my skill, my effort, putting me up, maybe the top 10% or 5% of other gamers, and I get a buzz from that. If you're cheating, you don't get that buzz. So what is it that you do get? And on that note, let's just have a solemn moment of honesty, because while I'm saying this, I have cheated in a game before. Let me know if you have. Honesty time, peasants, have you ever cheated in a video game? Mine was RuneScape back in the day. I was trying to get a quest cape, and I need to get my summoning up to like level 65, and I calculated I would have to be sitting there clicking runestones to like enchant stuff for something around like 60 hours. Just 60 hours of my finger just doing nothing but clicking. No skill required, just the most pointless, monotonous thing. And after like 10 hours, I was like, I'll just install like a click bot. Just something that automatically clicks my button. Did that, went away overnight, came back, banned from the game. I lost 5 years worth of selling myself, my life. I mean, it felt like selling myself to this game, RuneScape. The hours, the inconceivable hours, and then I got banned, and I've never been back. But I am hearing that new RuneScape is leagues different. A friend at my party said, "Dude, get back on RuneScape. If you're an old veteran, people want to see you playing new RuneScape. It's going viral as hell. Like multi-millions of people are not watching new RuneScape content, and I'm actually kind of considering it because of how much I know about old RuneScape. But my friend did warn me, dude, it's crack. It's crack. But he's been putting off work, going to see friends. He's like, my productivity, my health has dropped. It's just so addictive. So I'm a little bit scared of jumping back in, but also, while we also play Expedition 33, get on Final Fantasy 14 eventually. Maybe we could squeak some RuneScape in. I don't know. Next segment. Alright, this next segment, I thought, you know what? I need to shut up in my videos. Always rabbiting. Ribby rab. Let's listen to some music. This is going to be a test for you guys. Let me know in the comment section below as soon as you think you know, or take a guess. What game is this from? Which Final Fantasy game? You get Uno Peasant Point if you get that right, and then you get Tres Peasant Points if you can tell me what the name of the song is. Starting you at the obscure part of the song. Bit melancholy now, but also beautiful. Here comes the main flow. Such a goddamn beautiful song, man. Who knows where it's from? I feel like a lot of you got it on the vocals. One of my favourite Final Fantasies. I absolutely adore this game. It's Final Fantasy 13 too. Did anyone get that it was called Memories of the Future? I'd be very surprised. I would have guessed like Yule's theme, but obviously it's a rendition off of Yule's theme. And man, this is just an example of one of those songs that just so perfectly, succinctly fits the tone, the tonality of what 13 was about, you know, what Yule's story was about. This endless cycle of death and rebirth, the harrowing, gritty, grueling spiral that just kept marching on and taking Yule as a victim. Obviously Caius absolutely bonkers, but also even through Null. And it was also just that point, I think, in the 13 trilogy. I really love that, you know, first Final Fantasy 13 world is kind of in its destabilizing groove, but everybody's sort of just used to propaganda, indoctrination and capitalism, and everyone's living their own little secluded, distracted lives. And by the time we get to Lightning Returns, humanity's like been experiencing the apocalypse, end days shit, and that's become the new norm. And just to see the toll that that took. But 13.2, that middle point, was, I feel, where the world was experiencing its first like infusion of grief and sadness and realization that everything is just built on a impermanent house of cards that seems sturdy and stable, but very quickly just came toppling down. And yeah, the feeling that Yule's theme and Memories of the Future elicits, I don't know, it just fits it so perfectly. I just listen to that song and I feel I feel poignant feelings. Kind of just makes me feel that we need to recognize how fleeting all of this is, be grateful for it, and that there's just an undercurrent of bitter beauty that exists in the dualistic, polarized world of hope and sadness, selfishness and altruism, that everything in life is rhythmic, in tides, out tides. And as the good old Wolfpack song says, anyone know Wolfpack? I'm kind of binging them. There's a song they do called 100 Years From Now, or Theo Katzman, that basically just points out the truth that in 100 years from now, ain't none of us gonna be here, and probably most likely, unless we were either really shit, villainous people that kept people down by force, or whether we were saints who did miraculous things, that we're not going to be remembered. Everything will be back to dust. There'll be no semblance of us remaining in 100 years from now. And so get over yourself. Get over your seriousness. Get over the over-fixation of the problems that we feel that we experience, and yeah, I guess just see it through that lens that the sun sets on everything. All right, next section. I feel like maybe if I do like camera angle changes, it will like jazz this up. Maybe I need to, maybe I need to do like jingles.
I met a mover once that stole my socks, got killed twice by a Tunbury's walk. I'm just a guy with a pitchfork, that's all. No limit breaks, no epic quests, just fetching herbs and opening chests. I'm just a peasant. Final Fantasy Peasant, Final Fantasy Peasant, just a peasant doing what a peasant does.
Final Fantasy quotes and their IRL parallels. So go to the comments again, guys. Who can guess? And I'll be very impressed whoever gets this. I'll give 4 peasant points for this. Which FF character said, you know, you're always too deep in thought. Why don't you lighten up a little? It's not good to think too much. So who was the person that said that? Pause it. Let me know in the comments. Of course it was Renoa, our girl Renoir from Final Fantasy 8. And, you know, she wasn't meaning it in such a poignant way, I suppose, but hey, some people say really poignant things accidentally. I think because at the part of the game that Renoa says this, she's still kind of in a bratty, immature teen phase, which, no hates on Renoa, but that kind of is her character, really. Like, she is a little bit insufferable. Anyone feel me? But her school are kind of made for each other. Obviously does a massive amount of growing up when she becomes a sorceress against her will, and yeah, like she steps up. But I've always thought she was kind of insufferable at the start of the game. And I mean, she fires her dog out of a goddamn arm crossbow. Peter when? Peter, please. But you know, the idea of not having over seriousness and thinking too much, being too serious because of overthinking. 2 people who I absolutely love and admire and get a lot of inspiration from said similar things. Osho said, the power of your thoughts lies in the fact that you think they are yours. When you're arguing with someone, you say, my thought is this, or I think this. No thought is yours. All thoughts are different from you, separate from you. You just happen to be a witness of them. Love that. You know, you can rabbit hole so deep on that concept, and I feel like it's kind of necessary that you have to, because I also came into this world, a significant portion of it, believing that who I am is what I think. It's just such an easy, and if not predestined, conflation for us to make, because we live in a world, we live in a society and a culture where excessive thinking is everything. Even in the way we describe ourselves, who we are. You know, it's on dating apps or on social media. Like, who are you? Oh, I'm this person that advocates for this, or I believe in that, or I vote in this direction. And these are just things that we think, opinions we hold, and we get deceived into believing that they're cool parts of our identity. But all of those things are transient. We came with none of them, therefore how can they be truly us? And I was watching a really fascinating hour-long podcast on this, talking about what is the truest, most true part of who you are in your nature. Is there even a true part of us? Is all of it just made up? I like to think there is a true part, but what is that? And how do we even find that when we're trapped in the world of thought? How do we extricate ourselves from it? Because when I first thought about who I am, you know, some of the things that jumped out? Oh, I'm a person that has this moral compass. Oh, but wait, my moral compass hasn't always been this. It's actually changed numerous times. We have this notion sometimes of love. Like, we fall in love and I'm going to always feel like this. And you're like, you believe it in the moment, but life has shown you, and I'm sure it's shown some of you, that also changed. Our opinions changed, our outlook on life and ourselves, who we want to be, where we see ourselves going, our desires, our goals. It's all changed constantly. So by the nature of them changing, they can't be a core part of us. And core, I suppose, describing a permanent part of us, the unchanging aspect of ourselves. Is there an unchanging dimension? I don't know, but I do know thinking jumps in the way and hijacks the process of finding out. And Alan Watts said a similar thing. A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thinking. So he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions. By thoughts I mean specifically chatter in the skull. Perpetual and compulsive repetitions of words, of reckoning, of calculating. Now, I'm not saying that thinking is bad. Like everything else, it's useful in moderation. A good servant, but a bad master. And in truth, all so-called civilized peoples have increasingly become crazy and self-destructive because through excessive thinking they have lost touch with reality. That's to say, we confuse signs, words, numbers, symbols, and ideas with the real world. Most of us would rather have money than tangible wealth. And a great occasion is somehow spoiled for us unless photographed. That last one certainly gives me shivers because totally off on a tangent, but I had my birthday party last week and we was going to have a water balloon fight. My sister really wanted one, but she wanted it to be filmed. And everyone was getting like really stressed out because we need to get ready. Everyone come, we need to get onto the video. We need to take a photo of us having this water balloon fight. And everyone was kind of snipping at each other. And then me and my friends, we just got some water balloons and just started slapping each other with them. Started playing hot potato and just having fun. And they were like, no, stop wasting the balloons. Stop having that fun. You need to have the fun on video. It's like 90% of the goddamn internet, isn't it? Of social media. You pop on anyone's, we only show our best bits, our fun bits, our memorable parts. You look at most anyone's social media, you think that everyone was having goddamn amazing life and amazing time, but the moment that was experienced that led to that photo, how often it is totally inauthentic. It was staged, set up, it was thought about. True and genuine experience being funneled through social mechanisms like validation and moving it into the world of thought and thinking. And as Renoa said, well, I suppose even something like a water balloon fight became something super serious. Anyway. Camera angle change, that indicates a new section. Woo! This would be no Pez show without a bit of theory juice, right? So let's dive into it. A little bit of theory. This is going to be surrounding Final Fantasy 3 and 8 taking place in the same world. Now, I've still not played Final Fantasy 3, but I have known about the connection between 8 and 3 in terms of the sorcerer Hein. So, in Final Fantasy 8, the sorceresses get their power from what we hear, the world's backstory and history and folk tales passed along, is that it came from a sorcerer called Hein, who basically tricked humanity. Humanity wanted some of his power, and Hein gave them just one half of himself. And then he gave himself his flesh, which was his non-magical part. Gave it to them as a trick, and then buggered off. And everyone was like, fuck you, Hein. And then in Final Fantasy 3, we happen to have a skeleton wizard, skeleton wizard man called Hein. So there was that link there that the Hein of Final Fantasy 3 that we fight later goes on to be the Hein that creates the lineage of the sorceresses. But I've just discovered it goes deeper, potentially. Both games experience time compression out the gate. So time compression is under effect straight away in Final Fantasy 8. Old Misha's already been sowing that, trying to compress time so that she can be the only thing and being in existence. And Final Fantasy 3 supposedly starts where time has essentially frozen for like 1,000 years. So both games kick off on the same foot, and if you go to the maps, so it was the geography of 8 and 3. Now if you look at where the continents are, you can see they're not that far apart. They're similar enough. Obviously there is some change, and then some people are reasoning, well, if it's thousands of years after, you can have natural continental drift, but doesn't that usually take more like millions of years? And then this theory said, well, no, what we know in the world of 8 is that the lunar tears, the big demon monsters that come crashing from the moon and hit the planet, that has happened numerous times. It happens regularly, like every few decades. And what we saw from 8 is that there's numerous ecological sections of the world that have been essentially scarred and impacted. But the force of the Lunateers event is massive. And if you think about that happening over even 100, 200, 300 years, it could easily explain the deformation that we see in 3 and 8, but we're still circumstantial, right? Well, I don't make this too long, but there's also significant points where, for example, we go to a watery temple in 3, it happens to be a water section in 8, but the really big one that had me kind of getting a bit more convinced is that in Final Fantasy 8, the most southwesterly part of the map has a sunken research centre that happens to be the home of Bahamut. Bahamut lives in the sunken research temple. In Final Fantasy 3, in the exact same place on its map, it has the floating continent, home to, can you guess who? Freaking Bahamut. So the theory that the floating continent in 3 sunk is now on the bottom of the ocean became the deep sea research centre. Muchos compelling. And then we go to the final dungeons of both games, or close to the final dungeon for 8, Ulmisha Castle. But yeah, no, with Ragnarok, when we fight Adele, we have to go into the Lunatic Pandora, right? Now, if you look at the Lunatic Pandora in one of the cinematics, it just looks like a big grey rectangle shit thing. But for a moment, it goes translucent. And when you look inside the Lunatic Pandora, it looks like a crystal tree type shape, which is the exact crystal tower that we go in Final Fantasy 3, or it looks almost goddamn similar. So, arms are like, whoa. Oh, this is juicy. This is juicy. And then someone pointed out that in Dissidia, old Dissidia, just like they did with the tease on Ultimecia, going to school, like the finger, like one more dance, the Ultimecia Renoa theory. Well, apparently one also happened with Laguna going into the Cloud of Darkness's world of Darkness, Cloud of Darkness in the World of Darkness. And Laguna says a very interesting line, being that if 8 and 3 happened in the same world, that anything happened in 3 would also be Laguna's world. He says that he recognises this place, that he's been here before.
Well now, is this my first time through here, or my second?
And then we also have a significant story trigger happen from, I think it's Ultimecia and Cloud of Darkness interacting, meaning that there's some kind of relationship, at least Dissidia is presenting, between 3 and 8, and I think that's great. And that's the theory section for now. I could obviously turn this into a 40-minute video, but moving on. Well, let's talk about what Pez has been doing. A little personal section. Oh, didn't change the camera angle. I've just been looking after loads of dogs. I had my birthday party. Let me take you through a little story though of 2 dog de Bordeaux I looked after. Oh, these were very cute. Or at least one of them was. Ripley here. Massive, humalaga chunky chonk of a girl. I spent a week with her, no, 2 weeks actually, and she was just the sweetest little bean I've ever looked after. I had a habit of pulling on the lead, would be real close to pulling my arm out the joint socket a few times, but she was a greedy, hungry, lazy girl, and we just had the best time. And then I switched over to another dog de Bordeaux in the exact same week. And this boy's name was Beau, polar opposite. Now, though he's a male, he was significantly smaller than Ripley, and this boy was a vicious, aggressive little bastard. No, for real. I've been having to do a lot of dog training, coming here looking after doggies. In fact, I've got one at my feet right now. Hola! Hello, hola! Hola, hola! Hola, hola! Now, this girl is the opposite to Beau. She is one of the sweetest dogs I've ever met in my whole life. She's a working spaniel. And, okay. That's it, there we go. That's it. And she is just so full of energy and sweetness. But I've been having to learn how to train because not all dogs come this sweet. And Beau here was one of them. He would set his snarlers on people. Could genuinely be a very dangerous dog. And now I went there and I had to really juggle. Yeah, his need for space and warming up to people. There was a couple of times I went past him a bit too briskly and he'd like set on me. I would just stand my ground. I kind of set on him back. And goes, I show you dominance. I mean, not. I shouldn't say that dominance theory with dogs is a little bit outdated, but it does have. So some people throw dominance theory out completely, and they're like, "That's not how dogs work at all." No, there is pack and there is hierarchy, and you do have to show your authority. And basically, a couple of weeks ago, spent tepid 1 or 2 days training and working with him and rising Bo on his threshold. And then once I'd earned his respect, or he started respecting me, we become the best buds in the whole universe. It was a bromance with the likes of Vivi and Zidane, tinkle tinkle up a wall. Sort of Gladio, Ignis, Prompto, Noct, bros on the road, who just fell in love with each other. And it's just been so cool doing dog sits all over the place, because it's totally different every single time. The relationship that you have, the experience that you go through, the energy that you experience. I just love it. I absolutely adore it. And there we go, that's what Pez has been up to. What a shit section. Maybe we'll cut that one out, I don't know. Alright, let's speed this up. I want this show to be 15-minute segments. That ain't going to happen. But a crazy fact about FF you probably didn't know. Did you know that in 2004, the Athens Olympic, the synchronized dancey swimmer team for, I think it was the American team, they did their piece to Final Fantasy VIII. Let's play a little bit. Let's play. Now, I've seen the video, and it's crazy they chose this music. I think it's cool. Final Fantasy VIII music. As well. By the way, I'm totally faking my reaction. As you can see, I've got my headphones and I'm faking that the video's there. Can I just say though, I do think of all the Olympic sports, if I had to win an Olympic gold medal, I had to. My life, it depends on it. I feel like I could do this. I don't know. That sounds like I'm demeaning the talent and the skill required to do this. It doesn't look that hard. I mean, sure, I get it's underwater, right? But you just.
Escogen siempre algo que llame mucho la atención y que impresione a los jueces, naturalmente.
I mean, it's just a lot of this. Now, it is impressive when they shoot out of the water. And, I mean, I think I've just pulled my hamstring. Maybe I can't. Maybe we can't play. That's actually super impressive. Alright, you know what I think I could win? You know that ice curling game? You know where you bowl the curler down the ice and you've got the people with the brooms. I could do that. Religion and myths, myths and religion, religion and myth. Let's go deep on some religion and myth. We'll cover some myth and then some religion. Religion and myth time with Uncle Pez. Can any of you sing or help me create jingles and intros for these sections? Religion and myth. I love religion and myth. I often bring it into my theory videos. I always find it so juicy to explore what ancient civilizations have thought and imagined, the daydreams that have echoed throughout the ages. And Square Enix are obviously massive religion and myth. It's in my head now. They're religion and myth junkies. And just all the different creatures and themes and weaves. I always go so subtly, yet sometimes very, very deep. Like Norse in Final Fantasy VII, massive. But also sometimes there's just creatures, don't have any real connection to their mythological root, but I still like to go and research them. So that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to cover this boy. Yeah, I've got more space here. What creature is that, guys? It's an Ahriman. He's always pretty vicious, nasty little buggers, kind of on the level of a Tombury, I feel. And where do Ahriman Where does the term come from? Well, let me take you back to 500 BCE Iran. Iran be popping up in the news pretty significantly these days, and obviously Islamic rule is the current theocracy of Iran, but it wasn't always this way. Islam was also, in the region of Iran, being contested by Zoroastrianism. And in Zoroastrianism, the main ongoing conflict in it is between Ahriman and Ahura Mazda. And this struggle between these two gods and entities is believed to be the driving force behind the history of the whole entire world. Now, Ahriman is evil, pure evil. Like, even just the concept of evil. Ahriman also did make a little bit of an appearance in Islam, in the Zoroastrianism-Islam crossover, and Islam kind of interprets it very, very similar. So they have like Iblis, which is like Christianity's Lucifer, where it's like, this thing isn't just entirely evil. It does have a bit of divinity in it. It's a fallen angel, or it's a being of creation that does have purity in it somewhere, but it's now just become maligned. But Ahriman is just a being that just wants to corrupt everything good, and that's its only real motive and goal. He doesn't want power or status or to rule anything. It just wants to see good corrupted. Some call it the ultimate lord of darkness and chaos, the source of all human confusion, disappointment and strife. Another name he goes by is Angra Mainyu, evil spirit or dark spirit, and I did see some other theories that he would either appear as a serpent or like a tree that would turn all demony, which is very Final Fantasy V X-Death. I mean, that's quite literally what X-Death is, just a tree spirit that got corrupted by the void. And then I had to chuckle at the third thing. So like, tree creature, snake. The other one was a youth. These are the forms that Ahriman can take. A youth. Like what? A young person. And there is moments like that I feel just like religions really mask off. You see it in the Bible as well, where you read it and you're like, yeah, that was written by an old perverted man. You know, you read a section like that and you're like, yeah, a boomer wrote that. A boomer who had just had like his fence knocked in, or back then maybe his like goat stolen by a bunch of teenagers. It's just like, fucking kids, fucking hate kids, like boomers hating on kids. And he's like, yeah, you know what? Source of all evil, snake. I don't like that bloody tree down the end of my yard. It gives me the real heebie-jeebies. All those fucking kids. Anyway, finishing up, even back in old ancient Iran and Zoroastrianism, there were actual cults that worshipped Ahriman. And some of these would be for the purpose not of just like Satanism. Well, that's the thing, even Satanism isn't actually just glorifying evil, it's actually more complex than that. For Ahriman worshippers, it was more to like ward off evil, make it so that you were an ally of Ahriman and therefore not an enemy, and therefore things like suffering and ill tidings wouldn't come unto you. Some did think that it would give you power, or and not even necessarily just evil power, that he was also just a part of creation's power. So now, even back as far as Zoroastrianism, it was like philosophical debating on how can we call things just black and white, good or evil. It's like heaven or hell, seeing things in two-dimensional good and bad ways. And then there's obviously the philosophical middle, where everything is created from the everything, and therefore everything is part of the everything. Good can often emerge from evil, and evil can often be the force that paves the way for good. One would not exist without the other, and therefore trying to mentally or morally banish any of these concepts into separate camps was ultimately futile. And so there would be cults that would worship Ahriman. They would offer things like herbs. They would pound mortared herbs of Amomi. They would invoke Hades and darkness. They would then mingle it, like the herbs, with the blood of a slaughtered wolf. They would then bear the cup away, or the mortar, into a sunless place, and in doing so ward it off. Now, of course, some people would see this being done and they'd condemn the Ahriman cult as being perverted, devilish, unrighteous subhumans who were essentially delving too deep into mystery of sorcerers, sorcery, dark arts, dark magic, by praising Ahriman the Destroyer. And a lot of this type of thinking, also kind of Iran and Persia, a stereotype that became quite big at the time. And if any of you have seen 300, you probably saw that as well, like Xerxes, and he would have like his dark magicians and mages and shit. It had that kind of vibe, right? Dressed in like almost wizardy robes, and then they'd be like toying with like bombs and shit that they would throw at the Spartans. And apparently this was actually a pretty common stereotype of the Persians, that they were all into the dark arts and evil sorcery. And it was just kind of cool to see that style of cinematography even show up in the film. I think that's what I did, because that was a thing. But the really, really cool part about Ahriman's story and its battle with Ahura Mazda is a lot of historians and historical thinkers and philosophers today believe that, yeah, just like we have in many other cultures and religions, every single one of them has their own version of trying to reconcile with duality. How humans cope with living in a world that has good and bad. And that's so often the case, while we'd like to think of things like fate or luck or justice or karma. If we do good things happen to us. But how do we reconcile that when time has often shown again and again that life can be exceptionally disappointing? It can hand the worst of fates and the worst of outcomes to the most deserving of people, and then same on the inverse. Some of the most subhuman pieces of shit in the world seem to like thrive and flourish. How do we reconcile that dualistic nature of reality? Anyway, you get what I'm saying. I'm actually really enjoying this format. It's pretty sweet. I'm going to try it again. Keep building out the layers. And yeah, let me know if there's any thing or theme or topic section that I should add to this. Because the last one we're going to do actually is 2 questions from you guys. I said the last one was the last one, but this is the last one. I'm going to throw in questions from you guys. A way that we can actually have a conversation, have a dialogue. Because that's really why I'm back after such a long break. I've just been craving like connecting and chatting with you guys, chin wagging. Yes, one of the questions that I've been asked a lot is, am I going to play Expedition 33 very soon? As soon as I can basically get my PS5 to places, which I've booked my driving test, I've passed my theory, so I can ship my PS5 around. If I'm honest with you, that's almost entirely the main reason. I'm finally at 33, Expedition 33, and I'm 33. Wanting to get a car. Well, I've got a car, I've already bought the license. But UK driving tests are so backlogged, I can't get one for 6 months. 6 months! So, anyway, I'm going to figure that out. But to answer everyone's question, am I going to play it? Absolutely. The number of you that said this is either the best game that you've played of this year, some of you went even further, of all time. Pretty unanimously, everyone's saying it's a masterpiece. And the final question, obviously, ask one down below. It will appear on the next show. About Final Fantasy, gaming in general, something IRL, something serious, something nonsensical. Ask away. It might appear in the next show. Last question, who has more power, Chaos Pez or Tilt Pez? That's a good question, but it does show your immaturity. See, it's just like the duality I spoke about a moment ago. Chaos Pez and Tilt Pez are interconnected. There's no separation. Tilt Pez comes in very quickly these days, wipes about 50, 60, 70 times, and in that tilty unhingedness, I'm accumulating power. It's essentially like I'm photosynthesizing on tilt until I eventually snap, and then Chaos Pez releases all of that tilt power and gets shit done. How many times has Chaos Pez been the one who had to step into a stream and get it done? KH2 Sephiroth? Did anyone bear witness to that fucking ordeal? Pretty much all of Tactics. A lot of Final Fantasy 12 bosses. Oh yeah, I wiped on like 1% on, was it years, Matt? And quite a few bosses, 1%, like wipes. And the Souls games and the Elden Ring, and therefore my conclusion to the answer to that is Tilt Pez is the power generator, and then Chaos Pez is the final release of all the accumulated power, and therefore I suppose the answer is Chaos Pez. Here we go, there's the show. Way longer than I thought, but I'll refine it. We'll make it juicy. In fact, I feel so confident about this format that this will be the thing that gets me back over 100k, which I really need to get back there. I'm back down to 96, and I can't even open my silver play box because I feel like a fraud. I get imposter syndrome from it because I know I'm not 100k. So I went up into my attic the other day and I saw the silver play button. I went to touch it, and then I just got the feeling of fraud, sneaks, nobody likes you. I'd like to remove that feeling, but what I was going to say is I feel like this show in this format could be the thing that pushes me to 1 million subs. Stranger things have happened. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you later.